Picture this. A survival instructor stands in the middle of a forest. He's trained for 20 years. He looks around and says, "There's nothing edible here. Zero food sources, not a single berry, not one mushroom, nothing." Then a human shows up. No special training, just curiosity and hunger. 90 minutes later, he walks back carrying 47 different food options. 47. The instructor's jaw hits the ground. How did this happen? How did someone with zero survival training find food where an expert said none existed? The answer will change how you think about nature forever. It'll make you question everything you learned about the outdoors, and it proves one thing. Humans are the most adaptable creatures on this planet. We don't just survive, we thrive in places where others see nothing. Today you're going to learn exactly how this happened. You'll discover the hidden food sources all around you. You'll see why experts sometimes miss the obvious, and you'll understand why being human gives you an edge nobody talks about. Let's dive in. This story starts in Oregon, spring of 2019. A man named Marcus Chen signed up for a wilderness survival course. Marcus worked in tech. He spent his days behind a computer. His idea of roughing it was camping with a cooler full of sandwiches, but he wanted to learn real survival skills, so he paid $1,200 for a weekend course. The instructor was Derek Sullivan. Derek had credentials that filled a wall. Former Army Ranger, wilderness EMT. He'd survived in Alaska, the Rockies, and the Amazon. He'd written 2 books on edible plants. If anyone knew survival, it was Derek. The course started on Friday afternoon. 10 students total. Derek led them to a spot in the Cascade foothills, dense forest, lots of pine trees, some undergrowth. Not the easiest terrain, but not the hardest either. Derek stopped the group in a clearing. He looked around slowly, then he made his announcement. "This area has been picked clean by deer and foragers," he said. "There's nothing edible here worth your time. We'll hike another mile to better territory." The other students nodded. They trusted the expert, but Marcus felt something different. Call it stubbornness, call it curiosity. He asked if he could stay behind and look around anyway. Derek shrugged. "Knock yourself out," he said. "But you're wasting energy." The group moved on. Marcus stayed. He had 90 minutes before they'd loop back. Now Marcus didn't know much about wilderness survival, but he knew something else. He'd grown up poor in rural China. His grandmother had taught him to forage, not fancy survival training, just practical knowledge passed down through generations. How to spot food others ignored, how to use every part of a plant, how to think like someone who couldn't afford to miss a meal. Marcus started walking, not in a straight line, in a spiral pattern, covering every inch of the clearing. He looked high and low, under logs, behind rocks, in the shadows where most people don't bother checking, and he started finding things. First he spotted dandelions, everywhere. The leaves, the roots, even the flowers, all edible. Then he found clover. People think it's just lawn weeds, but the leaves and flowers make a decent salad. Then chickweed, wild onions, dock leaves, pine needles for tea. Each discovery led to another. Marcus started using a technique his grandmother taught him. Look for disturbed soil, that's where roots hide. Look for chewed stems, that's where animals eat, which means it's probably safe for humans too. Look for patterns in the landscape. Water sources attract edible plants. Within 30 minutes, Marcus had identified 15 different food sources. By 60 minutes, he'd found 32. By the time Derek's group returned, Marcus had 47. He'd laid them out on a flat rock, organized by category. Greens here, roots there, bark and inner wood over there, pine materials in another pile. Derek walked into the clearing and froze. His students gathered around. Nobody spoke for a solid 10 seconds. Now here's where things get really interesting. Derek didn't get angry. He got curious. He knelt down next to Marcus's collection. He picked up items one by one, examined them, and confirmed something shocking. Every single item was edible. 47 different food sources, in a location he'd declared barren. How did Marcus do it? The answer comes down to 3 factors. First, perspective. Derek was trained to find high-value foods, berries, nuts, large game, things that provide maximum calories for minimum effort. That's smart in a true survival situation, but it created tunnel vision. He literally couldn't see the small stuff. His brain filtered it out. Marcus, on the other hand, came from scarcity thinking. His grandmother had taught him that food doesn't have to be optimal. It just has to exist. A handful of clover won't fill your stomach, but 10 handfuls will. 5 different greens won't give you a feast, but they'll keep you alive. This is the first big lesson. Experts sometimes optimize themselves into blindness. They're looking for the best solution, so they miss 100 good enough solutions. Second factor, cultural knowledge. Western survival training focuses on specific plants, berries you can identify, mushrooms that won't kill you, large, obvious food sources. But in many Asian cultures, foraging is different. It's about abundance through diversity. You don't find one perfect food, you find 50 imperfect ones. Marcus knew plants that most survival manuals don't even list, not because they're dangerous, but because Western experts don't consider them valuable enough. For example, he collected cambium. That's the soft layer between bark and wood on certain trees. You can peel it off in strips. It tastes like cucumber mixed with wood. Not delicious, but absolutely edible. Native Americans ate it for thousands of years, but most modern survival courses skip right over it. Too much work for too few calories, they say. Marcus also grabbed fir tips, the bright green new growth on fir trees. They taste citrusy, high in vitamin C. You can eat them raw, or boil them into tea. Indigenous people across the northern hemisphere have used them forever, but Derek's training had categorized them as supplemental, not primary. Third factor, methodology. Derek surveyed the area like a general. Broad strokes, high-level assessment. Marcus surveyed it like a detective. Every rock got flipped, every shadow got checked. He spent 5 minutes examining a single square meter of ground. He found wild onions by smell, not sight. He discovered cattail roots in a tiny seasonal puddle Derek's group had walked right past. One of Marcus's most impressive finds was wood sorrel. It grows low to the ground, tiny clover-like leaves, lemony flavor, packed with oxalic acid. You have to know what you're looking for, or you'll step on it without noticing. Marcus found 3 separate patches. Combined, they could provide a full serving of greens. Derek had walked directly over one patch without seeing it. His eyes were trained upward and outward. Marcus's eyes were trained downward and inward. When Derek examined Marcus's collection, he realized something profound. The forest wasn't barren. His training was. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. After the initial shock wore off, Derek did something unexpected. He asked Marcus to teach the class, right there in the clearing. Marcus agreed, and what happened next blew everyone's minds. Marcus didn't just identify plants, he explained the system behind his success. First, he taught them the 3-foot rule. Most people scan their environment from 5 feet away. They're looking for big obvious things, but half of edible plants are under 3 feet tall, so you have to get low, kneel down, change your eye level. Suddenly, you see 10 times more options. One student, a woman named Jennifer, tried it immediately. Within 2 minutes she found purslane, a succulent ground cover that's actually a superfood, high in omega-3 fatty acids. She'd been standing on it the entire time. Second, Marcus taught them the edge principle. Food concentrates where environments meet. Forest edge meets meadow, wet soil meets dry soil, sunny spots meet shady spots. These transition zones have more biodiversity. More biodiversity means more food options. Derek knew this principle academically, but he'd never applied it at the micro level. He was thinking about edges between biomes. Marcus was thinking about edges between tree roots and open ground. Same principle, different scale. One student found wild strawberries this way. Tiny things, barely ripe, but absolutely edible, growing right where the clearing met the tree line. Third, Marcus introduced the concept of cumulative foraging. In Western survival training, you're taught to find one good food source, then exploit it fully. Found a berry bush? Strip it clean. That's efficient in the short term, but it's not how humans actually survived for most of history. Our ancestors practiced broad-spectrum foraging, a little bit of everything. 3 berries here, a handful of greens there, some roots over there. It takes more time, but it provides better nutrition, and it's more reliable. If one food source disappears, you have 46 backups. Marcus demonstrated this by making a salad. He mixed 12 different plants: dandelion greens for bitterness, clover for sweetness, wood sorrel for tang, wild onion for bite, chickweed for mild bulk. The result tasted better than most restaurant salads. More complex, more interesting. Derek tasted it and shook his head. I've been teaching this wrong for years, he admitted. But the revelation went even deeper. Derek realized his entire approach was built on a false premise. He'd been teaching people to survive. Marcus was showing them how to thrive. Survival is about finding enough to not die. Thriving is about finding abundance where others see scarcity. It's a mindset shift, and it changes everything. One of the students asked Marcus where he learned all this. Marcus explained about his grandmother. She grew up during China's Great Leap Forward. Famine killed millions. His grandmother survived by eating things nobody else considered food: tree bark, grass seeds, insects, root vegetables other people threw away. She passed that knowledge down not as survival training, but as cultural memory, a reminder that humans can adapt to anything. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The real shock wasn't what Marcus found, it was what happened after Derek tested his students. 2 months later, Derek sent a follow-up survey. He asked his students to go out and forage on their own, just for practice. 10 students responded. 9 of them found more food than they did during the original course. But one student found something Derek never expected. His name was Ryan, former Marine, grew up hunting and fishing, thought he knew the wilderness inside and out. Ryan went to a city park in Portland, not a forest, not a remote wilderness, a manicured urban park with mowed grass and walking paths. He applied Marcus's techniques, the 3-foot rule, the edge principle, cumulative foraging. In 60 minutes, Ryan identified 38 edible plants,
38. In a city park, he found dandelions in the lawn, plantain between sidewalk cracks, wild garlic in the mulch beds, clover everywhere, blackberry bushes along the fence line. He found lamb's quarters, purslane, and chickweed in the waste areas the landscapers ignored. He even found daylilies and hostas in the ornamental gardens, both completely edible. The flowers, the shoots, even the tubers. Ryan took photos and sent them to Derek. Derek was speechless. This wasn't just about wilderness survival anymore. This was about urban abundance. Food everywhere, hidden in plain sight, being labeled as weeds instead of recognized as sustenance. Derek realized something that fundamentally changed his teaching. The problem isn't lack of food. The problem is lack of knowledge. Modern humans are surrounded by edible plants. We've just been trained to not see them. Our food system taught us that food comes from stores, from farms, from labeled packages, not from the ground under our feet. This creates a dangerous dependence. If the supply chain breaks, most people think they'll starve, but the truth is different. You're probably within 50 feet of something edible right now. You just don't know what it is. Derek started incorporating this into his courses. He began teaching urban foraging alongside wilderness survival. Same principles, different environment. He discovered that students learned faster in cities because the stakes felt lower. You're not worried about bears or getting lost. You can focus entirely on plant identification. Once you learn to see food in a city park, you can see it anywhere. One student took this to the extreme. She foraged 80% of her vegetables for an entire summer. Didn't buy greens at the grocery store, just collected them from parks, empty lots in her own backyard. She calculated that she saved over $600, but more importantly, she felt connected to her environment in a way she never had before. Food wasn't something that happened to her anymore. It was something she participated in. Derek published his findings in a survival journal. The article went viral in prepper and sustainability communities because it revealed an uncomfortable truth. We've been taught to fear scarcity, but scarcity is often an illusion created by ignorance. So what does all this mean for us today? This story matters because it reveals three major truths about modern life. First, expertise can create blindness. Derek was an expert. 20 years of training, multiple certifications, real-world experience in harsh environments. But his expertise made him overlook simple solutions. He was trained to find optimal answers, so he missed 100 good enough answers. This happens everywhere, not just in survival situations. Experts in business miss simple solutions because they're too complex. Experts in health miss obvious fixes because they're looking for advanced treatments. Experts in technology miss user-friendly designs because they're too focused on features. The lesson: sometimes the amateur sees what the expert can't, not because the amateur is smarter, but because they're not constrained by conventional thinking. Second, abundance is a matter of perspective. Marcus saw abundance where Derek saw nothing. Same forest, same plants, different eyes. This applies to everything in life. Some people see opportunity everywhere. Others see obstacles everywhere. The external circumstances are often the same. The difference is internal. It's about what you've been trained to see, what you believe is possible, what you're willing to work for. If you change your perspective, you change your reality. Third, resilience comes from diversity. Marcus didn't rely on one food source. He found 47. If 10 disappeared, he'd still have 37. This is how humans have always survived, not by finding the perfect solution, but by having multiple backup plans. In your life, this means diversifying your skills. Don't rely on one income stream. Don't rely on one relationship. Don't rely on one source of happiness. Build multiple sources of everything important. That's how you become truly resilient. Now let's talk practical application. You don't have to become a foraging expert, but you can start small. Learn 3 edible plants in your area. Just 3. Dandelion, clover, and plantain are almost everywhere. All 3 are edible, safe, and easy to identify. Spend 20 minutes learning what they look like, then spend 20 minutes finding them near your home. Suddenly you'll see them everywhere. It changes how you see the world. You'll realize you're not dependent on systems the way you thought. You have options. You have agency. That feeling is powerful. Another application: question expertise. When an expert tells you something is impossible, investigate for yourself, not to prove them wrong, but to see if their framework applies to your situation. Experts are valuable, but they're not infallible. Their knowledge is shaped by their training, their culture, and their biases. Your situation might require a different approach. Final application: practice cumulative strategies. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. In your career, develop multiple skills. In your health, use multiple approaches. In your relationships, invest in multiple connections. In your finances, create multiple income sources. The goal isn't to be mediocre at everything. It's to have backup systems that prevent total failure. That's how humans conquered every environment on Earth. Not by being the strongest or fastest, but by being the most adaptable. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. Here's the twist nobody saw coming. 6 months after that course, Marcus quit his tech job. He didn't become a survival instructor. He started something completely different. He launched a company called Hidden Harvest. It's a foraging education platform. But here's the brilliant part. He doesn't market it to preppers or survivalists. He markets it to chefs, high-end restaurants in major cities. His pitch: your customers are bored of the same ingredients. I'll teach your chefs to find ingredients nobody else has. It worked. Within a year, he had contracts with 30 restaurants. Chefs started featuring foraged ingredients on their menus: dandelion salads, pine needle infusions, wild onion garnishes. Suddenly, weeds became gourmet. Diners paid premium prices for them. Marcus expanded. He started leading foraging tours for amateur cooks, $50 per person, 3-hour walks through parks and nature preserves. People loved it, not because they needed survival skills, but because it made them feel connected to nature. It gave them a sense of discovery and independence. Today, Hidden Harvest generates over $2 million annually. Marcus employs 12 people. He's been featured in food magazines, sustainability journals, and even a documentary, all because he saw abundance where an expert saw nothing. Derek, by the way, became one of Marcus's collaborators. He now teaches the wilderness component of Hidden Harvest courses. He jokes that Marcus taught him more in 90 minutes than he learned in 20 years. But it's not really a joke. The truth is, learning never stops. Expertise is valuable, but it's not the end of the journey. It's just one milestone. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you stop growing. Marcus's story reminds us that the world is full of hidden resources, food in empty forests, opportunity in dead markets, solutions in impossible problems. You just have to train yourself to see them, and that training doesn't require a degree or certification. It requires curiosity, humility, and persistence. The willingness to look where others don't, to question what others accept, to try when others quit. That's the real survival skill. Not knowing which plants to eat, but knowing how to learn, adapt, and thrive no matter what. If this opened your eyes, here's what you need to do next. Let's recap what you just learned. An expert survival instructor declared an area barren. An amateur found 47 food sources in the same spot. The difference wasn't knowledge, it was perspective, methodology, and cultural wisdom. Experts can develop tunnel vision that blinds them to simple solutions. Abundance exists everywhere if you know how to see it. Resilience comes from diversity, not perfection. And the skills that help you survive in the wilderness are the same skills that help you thrive in life. Question assumptions, look where others don't, and build multiple backup systems. Now, if you found this story as eye-opening as I did, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, because every week, I bring you stories like this. Stories about humans doing impossible things, breaking through limitations, proving that we're more adaptable, more resourceful, and more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. These aren't fairy tales. They're real events with real people, and they're designed to shift your perspective on what's possible. Also, smash that like button. It tells YouTube to share this video with more people. And honestly, this is the kind of story everyone needs to hear right now. We live in a time where people feel dependent on systems, fragile supply chains, uncertain economies, complex dependencies. But stories like Marcus's remind us that we have more power than we think. We're not as helpless as modern life makes us feel. Now here's a deeper challenge for you. Go outside this week. Spend 30 minutes looking at the ground. Really looking. Try to identify 3 plants. You don't have to eat them. You don't have to become a foraging expert. Just see if you can notice 3 living things you've been walking past your entire life. Use a plant identification app if you want. Take photos. Share them in the comments below. I want to see what you find. Because here's the secret. Once you start seeing, you can't stop. The world transforms from a backdrop into a living, interactive environment. That shift in awareness changes everything. It makes you feel more alive, more capable, more connected. And if you want to go even deeper, check out the video I'm linking right now. It's about a guy who survived 37 days in the Amazon with nothing but a pocket knife. He used techniques similar to Marcus's, but in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The strategies he used will blow your mind. Finally, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment answering this question. What's one skill you've always wanted to learn, but thought was too hard or impractical? Survival skills? A new language? Building something with your hands? Tell me in the comments. Because the theme of this channel is simple. Humans are capable of incredible things. The only thing stopping most of us is the belief that we can't. So let's challenge those beliefs together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.